Om Shri Sairam, offering our collective pranams at the divine lotus feet of Bhagawan, Shri Sathya Sai Baba. Before we take this satsang forward, may I take this moment to invite our convener of Shri Sathya Sai National Leadership Program for Self-Transformation, Dr. Gopi Krishna Piratala, to say a few words.
Sairam, thank you, Shivansh. Thank you, AV team. That was a wonderful introduction of Dr. Suma. We are starting our Satsangatve Nisangatvam series today, and who else can, product of the Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, could be the first opening batsman of the series. I've known Professor Suma for a long time, right from our younger days. I've known the family too. It's going to be an extraordinary roller coaster ride for all of us. And I pray to Bhagawan to bless her profusely, and we'll have some enlightening moments from her, and look forward to associate more with the Sathya Sai Institute of High Learning and also such satsangs in due course. We're going to have about 12 to 13 satsangs that would be coming up during this 9-month program. And we have the lady here. Swami always says Mahilas first, and we have Professor Suma with us. Over to you, Professor Suma. Thank you so much and welcome on board. Sairam.
Thank you so
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
ma'am. It is my responsibility, ma'am, to take this session and introduce everyone here. I am Shivansh Tiwari, and on behalf of the academic board and the team of Sri Sathya Sai National Leadership Program for Self-Transformation, welcome you all to the episode 1 of Satsangatve Nisangatvam series 2024. In the audio teaser shared earlier, our Sai assistant, SatVam, had provided a hint to guess the theme of this session. And most of you guessed it correctly, and yes, the topic for the satsang today is Sathya Sai message, primordial and universal. To guide us into the profound teachings, we have with us today Dr. Suma Rao. And we not only admire her for her academic achievements as showcased in the AV, but also for her unwavering devotion, remarkable talent, and exemplary leadership. And without further ado, ma'am, I invite you, and please take it over. Sairam.
Thank you so much. In fact, I've heard such good words. I have to now make effort to deserve them. Thank you, Gopi Krishna sir. It was very kind of you to invite me for the first session. I feel extremely honored and grateful to all of you and to Swami too. Truly, my journey has begun when I was very young, almost at the age of 15. And I came from the city of Bombay and was like any regular Bombay teenager. For me, it was a long and, what would I say, 180-degree difference journey. And in this journey, I have learned a lot. May not be much in terms of what Swami wants to teach us, because that's an ocean. But I would really love sharing all this with all of you. I understand that we have a lot of young, talented, and amazing people in this NLP program. And it's a very successful program. In fact, I have met some people who have passed out of this program and have completely changed their lifestyle or made radical choices after that, to get into more seva or to get into even our organization. And so I really congratulate this team which has created this program and is successfully rolling it out across so many years. So just to not take too much of your time, I'll just share my screen. I hope it's visible to all. Seen. Is my voice clear, or do I need to be louder?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
It is clear, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. So as they said that today's theme would be about primordial and the universal size message. And I couldn't have chosen a better title for this. Because in some ways, what Swami says is so fundamental and so much dealing to our soul that it is extremely universal too. And so this, keeping in view this, I wanted today to basically share one very insight which came from reading Swami's discourses, and I will substantiate it with all my experience. और हिंदी में बोलना है तो यही है कि स्वामी के जो मैसेजेस हैं वो बहुत ही सूक्ष्म है और बहुत ही गहरे भी है, और ऐसे मैसेज को आप स्वामी हमें कैसे सिखाते हैं, कैसे हम अपने जीवन को स्वामी के शब्दों के अनुसार जी सकते हैं, इसके बारे में आज मैं बोलना चाहती हूँ. I'm sorry, I'll be keeping on moving from Hindi and English because I understand we have a lot of Hindi people too. So just out of respect for everyone. Please bear with my Hindi, which is not excellent. So in terms of today's message, what I would like to speak about, yes. Now, Swami often used to say that if we have to deal with darkness, you cannot deal with it with darkness. In the sense, if you want to get rid of darkness, the only thing you have to do is bring light into the room. The minute you light, darkness vanishes. So similarly, as we go ahead in life, I think much of our battle is to fight our lower self and win over our higher self, or make our higher self a reality. But in this process, what we need to do is very simple. It's just bringing light into the room. What is the light? If you look at it, Swami is described often, or God is described as 1,000,000 billion suns. Even if we had 1,000,000th part of him into our life, probably that would be enough to singe it and, just push all the darkness away and raise our consciousness. So I'm praying to this God, invoking his presence, and I pray that he's there with us in all our journeys, in all our attempts to follow him. And may the ending, of our life be in the blaze of his orange. So with this prayer, I thank again all of you for being here. So one of the things which we did, immediately after, I think it was just in 2011, when Swami had just shed his mortal coil. And those of us who had spent our literally entire life with the form, I don't know how to describe that gap, which it left, or it still continues to feel sometimes. But what we did at that point of time, we recognized that his word is more powerful even than the form. So the first thing we did is dive into the word. And when we were reading his discourses, plenty of his discourses are available. And there's one thought which came up, an insight, which I'm going to share with you. Okay. Swami said that our ego identity, and why am I discussing this particular thought? Because this is a leadership program, and I'm sure all of you are looking at personal development. कि हम अपने आप को कैसे उच्च बनाएं, यही है ना जिसके कारण आप ये इस प्रोग्राम के लिए आए हैं. If you have come for this program, it's only to raise consciousness. And so I thought, let's cut the chase. Let's go to the point. Okay. And if we are talking about it, it's our ego identity. Our ego identity is basically ego, I mean, in a good sense, who I identify with. So this I in me, it can be linked to my body, it can be linked to my mind, it can be linked to my emotion. And depending on this, Swami says our behavior results. He says when you are rooted too much in the body is very nashwar कहते हैं ना, जो रहता नहीं है, जो शरीर है वो रहेगा नहीं. So this is the reason why when our identity is rooted in the body, we tend to be hoarding or selfish. Swarth, Swami calls it. In fact, very interestingly, I would like to tell you a story here. So my grandmother was, she's no more with us, but when her entire life she spent in a lot of sadhana, and she was a Yogananda Shishya. She also came and stayed in Patti for the last part of her life. And she was a very enlightened soul. And I remember in her last few days when she was in the hospital, I used to sit by her in the night. And one day she called me and she said, you know, everybody says don't have attachment. What do you think we should not have attachment to? So I said, your people, your possessions, and maybe all the things you value, we have to let go of everything when we die. So probably that's what it means. And she said, no, that's not, those are all easy to leave. The hardest thing to leave is your attachment to your own body. And she told me, the rest of your life, think about this question. Think about why or how to reduce this body attachment. So this is just one part of it. And then when it's rooted in the mind, the mind plays games. Okay, the mind is calculative. And when you are playing an ego battle of survival and you use your mind, Swami says we play mental and political games to survive. And he calls it swaprayojanam. We use others to our own advantage, or a situation to our own advantage. And what we mean by advantage is survival advantage, not the higher advantage. Those who are rooted in emotions, that is, whose ego identity is rooted in emotion, they tend to be self-centered. And, their whole universe begins with themselves and ends with themselves. And every time they don't get their way, they are drama queens or drama kings, and they play emotional drama to get there. So Swami says that the ego identity must not get identified with all these, but your ego should be identified with the Atman. And that is when you live like a true human being. So I want you to keep this thought in the background. And I'm going to now narrate a series of experiences, mine and others, to show how these kind of emotions or ego identity is shifted by Bhagawan. See, if we undertake this journey, we are not very sure we do things right. Okay? Because which ego is talking, which self is talking is very, very difficult to understand. When some thought comes to my head, from which part it is coming, it's very difficult to say. Is it coming from a higher level or lower level? Or is it body identity? Is it my mind fighting for survival? It's so difficult to understand. But the beauty of coming to Swami is like bringing light into darkness. The minute you bring Swami into your life, things dramatically change. So I'm going to now share with you the story of this dramatic change. I won't say I have completed the journey. I'm still a pilgrim. But when I look back, I came to Swami, to Puttaparthi when I was 15 years old. So I got to know of Swami when I was 4 years old. But I came to Swami in the 80s when I was just 15 years old. Today, I am 54. I have almost had 4 decades at the lotus feet. And if I look back, I feel extremely grateful for it. And so it is my pleasure and honor to share this learning with all of you. Overcoming Swartham, or what you call as reducing body consciousness. Swami has very mysterious ways of doing this. So I'm just going to tell you the subtle lessons that I picked. So the first story I'm going to tell you about is a very physical thing. That's the body consciousness. In 1987, I think it was in March, my parents were traveling, my mother and my father, and many other teachers and some young students were traveling to Vrindavan. Swami was in Vrindavan, and the car was going early morning hours at 4 o'clock. It was a matador. And I think the driver was exhausted because they used to do a lot of driving. I don't know what it was, but he was speeding at a very high speed. And he collided with a lorry. And because of that impact, this vehicle went, topsy-turvy and landed with his wheels up. So मेरे माता पिता जा रहे थे वृंदावन, और रास्ते में उनका बहुत बड़ा एक्सीडेंट हो गया था. उनकी गाड़ी पलटकर व्हील्स ऊपर रख के रह गई, और पीछे वाली जो डोर थी वो खुल गई थी. The back door flew open, and 2 of those young students, barely 24, 25, actually lost their lives that day. My parents, that my mother and father, had massive injuries, head injuries, and jaw injury, eyes, etc., and ribs they had broken. But what is more interesting is what happened before the accident. Seconds before the accident, my mother was just closing her eyes and she saw Swami. This huge picture of Swami coming front. And she opened her mouth to say, I can see Swami. And she was telling her, I am there. Even before it, if we flash back, this was in February of that same year. And Swami had called my parents for an interview on Feb 9th, which happened to be their wedding anniversary. And he specifically called both of them and blessed them with a long life. And that point of time, they didn't know what it meant, of course, but basically he had decided to grant life to them. Because after this accident, it was a blur. Actually, see, normally if anybody talks of an accident, you talk of it with pain. But for us, this accident was like a floodgate of grace. It brought so much of Swami into our lives at that point of time that, the pain is forgotten. Nobody can even associate or recollect the pain of it. In fact, we share it like a miracle in our life. So that is the power of God. When it comes into your life, the pain gets transmuted into joy. Okay. And so Swami used to come to the hospital. Swami took care of all of them. We were still in college and my sister was still in school. And he made all arrangements for us. I mean, if I remember from the meal we ate till carrying toothbrushes and, clothes and everything which were lost in the accident, Swami took to the hospital. He was like amazing care, which, and when you see that beautiful form and God coming, pain vanishes literally. And I remember my mother told him, Swami, if this is an accident, if this is brings so much of you in our lives, I don't mind another 10 more accidents also, I'm ready, she said. So when God comes into your life, physical pain gets transmuted. Body's limitations become meaningless, actually. And we may think, okay, this was because when Swami was present, so therefore all this is possible. What about now, when Swami is not so physically available? Does this still hold good? So I'm going to tell you another story. And this is regarding one of my students. The girl students and boy students do amazing stunts during sports meet. So this was one sports meet and all the students were practicing. I think this was Swami's form was not there by then. And while practicing, one of the girls had a nasty fall. They have all these things on the bike which they climb up and they are doing all these kind of stunts. So one child had a fall and she was in pain. So I immediately took her and went to the hospital. Luckily, it was not a serious injury, but I'm sure she was in pain. But she was such a brave girl. She kept her tears in check and they had to do the x-rays and this and that and finally put a cast for her and everything. And after we finished the whole thing, I was sitting next to her waiting for the paperwork to finish and she suddenly started crying quite bitterly. So, and I asked her like, why are you crying so much? Are you in pain? Do you want to talk to your parents? Sometimes just imagine these children are now away from home and then you have a physical injury. It can be really hard for a child. So I asked her, shall we talk to your mama or shall we talk to your father? Do you want to talk to anybody? And she kept saying, no, no, no. But she was sobbing quite bitterly. So finally I asked her, why are you crying? So when I asked her why you were crying, she finally told me, she said, ma'am, will I be able to participate in the sports meet? Can I perform in front of Swami? And then I understood her pain is not coming from the injury. Her pain is not coming because she's away from her parents. The pain is coming because she wants to do or perform in front of Swami. Suddenly it hit me, at that point of time, that this is how he moves your deep-rooted association with your body away from it. In a subtle way, Swami moves your rootedness into your body. If you look at it, the only time we can serve truly or be like a vessel for God to fill his water in us or whatever is possible only if our self is removed in small degrees. Selfishness is removed. So our deep-rooted body consciousness, because anyway, now if I talk of myself, who is Suma, I will respond. Oh, what has Suma done? Who is Suma? What has she done? This is very real to me, right? It's not easy to get out of that. But with small, small incidents, he pricks this solid identity and slowly it crumbles. And that is how we make space for God in our lives. Now let's look at the next level of our ego identity, which is swaprayojanam. That means we use our mind to calculate and survive in life. We use the mind to understand what's going on around us, to understand the politics around us, to understand how to play a winning game. And it's become such a habitual thing that we, when we are not conscious also, our mind is calculating all the time. And whenever I speak about this to my students, they tell me, ma'am, goodness, being good is very stupid, okay? If you just be only good, people will take you for a ride. You should be smart. You should not just be good, you should be smart. They tell me all that. And I used to think, how do you convince anybody that calculation is different from grace and wisdom, of living? So now I'm going to share some more experiences which I had, which gave me some insight into how calculation should be avoided, actually. This is a very funny incident, but it happened, Swami in those days used to give darshan and a lot of Westerners used to come. There was a time spell when lots used to come from Slovenia, then that, Yugoslavia, and Lithuania, and all those small parts around and Russia, etc. And there was one huge group which had landed, and those were days when I was doing something which we call as security duty, which is very funny because you can't give security to Swami. But what it was that after we passed out from college, Swami gave all the girls a chance to just help the Sevadals and other people who help in the crowd to mind the crowd, basically. And so make sure they don't fall too much on Swami and help, actually. And it allowed us to not focus only on our darshan all the time, but also be useful to others when they are having darshan of Swami. I think that also in itself was a lesson of service for us. So I was doing this duty at that point of time, and this whole Russian or whichever group came and sat next to me, and they were quite a lot, okay, about some 18, 19 people who came and sat next to me. Now, most of these countries at Eastern Europe and others, they don't speak English. So the group could not communicate with anybody, but there was one spokesperson in the group who speaks English. So she came to me and she said, we are from this country and we came for darshan. I said, okay, Sairam. And then she said, Baba will come. I said, yes, Baba will come. Can I speak to Baba? I said, if Baba speaks to you, you can speak to him. Then she said, what kind of questions does he ask? Because I can understand English, but I have to train these people. So can you just tell me? And you know something, it is sheer presumption if we think we know what Swami will ask, right? But then, I was doing this darshan thing for so long, and I was like a little cocky, or I don't know what to call it. But I thought, okay, I'll let them know what generally Swami asks. So I said, Swami will ask you which country or where are you from, and you can tell your country. And then he'll ask you how many, then you tell him the number. And if he tells you go, then you go for interview. And if he says, he just smiles at you, stay put here. So this lady got up and she trained all of them, So if Swami comes and then he says how many, then you should say this country. I'm sorry, where are you from? Then you should say Russia or whatever country. And when he asks how many, you have to say the number 18. No, the 18 is also new for them, right? So she had to teach them. So they were practicing, for some time. And I was feeling very smug and comfortable sitting next to them. Swami came for darshan. He walked past all of them. He came to the opposite side and he came to this crowd. And he looked at all of them and said, how many? And they all said, Russia, Swami. And then he asked, which country? And they said, 18, Swami. And after this conversation, he gave me a look, across the crowd. He looked at me and gave me one look like, okay, madam, don't think you can calculate my sentences. And I don't need you to communicate with anybody. And it was like a slap for me. It was very subtle, but it was very clear. Don't presume to know what I will ask. So I don't know, that actually that whole incident stayed with me in my mind simply because it was that mischievous smile that he gave me after the conversation was actually the slap on my face. And so the thing with God, I think, is important is to come like with a blank mind as far as possible, with no preconceived thing. Because I've noticed 100 times in my interactions with him is that when I have this desire in my mind, I have this thought pattern, I have this definition of God, and then I come with all of this, I miss everything about it. Like it's like you come to a huge ocean or a river and you don't come with a full pot. You have to empty that pot of yours and come, because that's when you can take whatever he gives. So in small ways and big ways, he will thrash that lesson into your consciousness. Now I'll tell you a little more complicated story again about the mind. And this was, sometimes we think we are virtuous, and that is a bigger barrier sometimes, So this is, of course, we used to have something called Messenger's Day, which was an ex-student day. And this is my colleague Rani, who was a young girl that time speaking. But the whole point in story here is that Vishnu went back. So we were making this huge Vishnu and Mahavishnu and Nataraja, 3D images, not 3D, but actually slightly raised images. And these were made in metal sheets, okay? And, you get these thin metal sheets in copper and in gold and brass and everything. So we had made this with that. And then we had made all this jewelry with thermocol, etc., and fixed it. And we had made two. One was Mahavishnu and the other was Dancing Nataraja. And they were about like 6 to 7 feet, I think, in the entire diameter of the circle. And we were making this, and we were all ex-students who were working on that. There were about 30 of us working on that. And we were all, at that point of time, not employed. We were just ex-students hanging out and heavily dependent on our parents, financially and otherwise. So we had collected some money to do all this, okay? And I was very strict with the budget. I used to think they are taking somebody else's money, so it has to be well spent. So I used to keep the accounts, and I calculated to the T how much we have to buy and everything, and it was done. And we fell short of to make, can you see those flowers on the ring? You see on the ring around Vishnu, there are those lotus flowers, which was there in the plan, but we didn't have enough metal sheets to make that. So I said, we won't make it. We'll keep only a ring, and that's how it's going to go. And my team had other girls, and they started fighting with me. They said, no, we have done so much work. Let's collect that money and let's finish making it completely. So I was saying, no, we're not going to borrow more money from our parents. This is enough. I mean, the heart counts. We have done it. So that's enough. So we had a kind of a bitter fight on that. And they were arguing that we should make it, and I was arguing we shouldn't. And finally, what they did was they collected it among themselves and they bought that sheet, okay? And they made these lotuses around that. So when the sheet came, I asked them, where did it come from? And then they just shrugged their shoulders and say, we got it, that's it. And then they made it. So, okay, I also then said, okay, then I'll also. But I was a little hurt about the whole thing, because I thought that I had designed this, so they have to take my opinion into account, that ego problem that was there. Now, the story didn't end there. On the final day, we had, you can see the rope by which, it's not rope, but a chain. It was hung on a chain in the Purnachandra. And while we were hanging it, which was in the afternoon, Swami suddenly came to the stage. And when Swami was standing there, we were busy hanging this thing there. And he went and saw the other one. What is the Nataraja? And said, Bhagawan and all that. He praised it. He looked at Nataraja, he came and saw this Vishnu, and then he teased us for the amount of jewelry we put for Vishnu and all that. And he was commenting about the Gada, and he called me. When I went near him, Swami said, Mahavishnuki చెప్తాను ఆ గద తీసుకుని ఒక్కటి ఇవ్వమని నేను. Like on my head, it seems Mahavishnu should give one good shot. That is necessary. So, and then he said, how much money was spent on this? He asked. As soon as he asked the question, I knew that this was with reference to the conflict that we girls had. And all the girls were looking at my face to see what I am going to say now, because I was the budget keeper. I was the Judas of the group. And so they asked me how much, he asked me, Swami, and how much was the budget, of the whole thing? I said, Swami, not much. Then Swami said, Cheppu. So then I gave him the figure. And then he said, Anta dabu veyala? Do you need to put so much money for this? That too for one day you're going to hang it? Is it worth putting so much money on it? Yes. Everyone was silent because this was sensitive. I don't know where it came from. I said, Swami, it may be only 1 second, but it is going to be seen by you.
Yeah, looks like she's having a network issue. Let me try calling her. Sorry about the delay. Sairam, yes, there is a network issue. Ma'am will join us shortly. Please, till then, let's ruminate the message that she's shared with us thus far. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm sorry about that. I'm back. I'll just
No
reshare.
problem, ma'am. Sure.
Yeah. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It is, yeah.
Sorry, though I connected it with my phone, I think we are going to have some issues here. The connectivity is poor even otherwise. So if I ever go out, I have kept 2 connections. I'll keep coming back. So as I was saying, then Swami was actually, I think I was calculating, continuously about the budget, which the underlying thought, which means that we are spending too much. And that is why he raised that very same point with me when he was talking about it. And I think the lesson I learned at that point of time was, every resource we have is given by God, whether it is our intelligence, whether it is cash, whether it is things or whatever. And what is a better spend for it other than on God, in whichever form, when you give it back to God, that is the best way of using a resource. And that broader thought was what he was sensitizing me for. And that is one lesson which I hope I remember all my life, because that's what we have to view life as itself. I mean, every gift that we have, every capability that we have, firstly, we have to thank him for it, and then we have to make sure it reaches back to him, because that's the whole purpose of life itself. So now I'm going to tell you about the next level of it. That is, if you want to overcome swabhimanam, which is nothing but a form of self-centeredness, abhimanam, which is connected to your lower self. Now, remember, when you say swabhimanam, there can be a higher level and a lower level. I'm talking about the lower swabhimanam, where you make yourself the center of the universe. And the only way to overcome that kind of self-centeredness is to actually think of the other person, to become broad enough to expand your heart. This is another story I'm telling you. I'm sorry all these stories show me in poor light, but I think what is more important is the lessons we learn at his lotus feet. I mean, yeah, I could speak to you about, how sweet he was, what he said and all that. But what is useful for people is the learning. The experience is somebody else's, they have an experience. But what we take away from anything is always learning. So that is why I'm focusing mainly on those incidents which taught me something. So this was another situation when Swami had called us for an interview. That is me, my parents, my sister, and my cousin sister. She was also there. A lot of my cousin sisters studied with me, but this particular sister was there at that time. And Swami materialized earrings in that interview, and he gave it to me and my sister. He gave one pair to my mother also. But to this,
Let's give it some more time. We'll see if she's coming back.
We're trying to connect with ma'am. Just she'll soon join. Some glitches on her end.
sorry, I'm just going to put my camera off so that we don't have more of these mishaps as we go ahead. Sorry, I'm really sorry about this.
Not at all, ma'am. You're actually giving us time to think about the messages too. So thank you, Sairam.
Are you able to see the screen, or I need to reshare it? I think, yeah. Okay, sorry. So going back to the story, so Swami had created these earrings for us, and then he gave it to all of us, and except my cousin sister. And when she felt bad, he just took his handkerchief and he said, "You keep this." And she was so happy when she received that from Swami. She just took it very gladly. And I don't know. I don't know. Hello? Are you able to hear, or any issues? Okay.
Yes, we are able to hear. I
Yes,
request all the
yes.
participants to be on mute, please. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So what happened was, then I don't know why my mind worked like that, but at that minute I thought, Swami, though Swami had created the earrings, okay, it came out of his hands actually. But I was thinking, Swami, I want something which you have used and kept with you for so long. So in my mind, I'm thinking, Swami, I value this handkerchief from you much more than the earrings you created, which is a very stupid thing, firstly. When Swami gives something, you just take whatever he gives. You don't calculate in that which is a better one and which is a worse one and things like that. But I don't know what it was in my mind which went through like that, and quite quite, what would I say, ill-mannered way, it came out of my mouth. I said, Swami, I would prefer the kerchief more. I'm not interested in jewelry. This is what I said. And Swami's expression changed when I said that. And he picked the other kerchief which was there. He lifted it and he looked at me and said, I gave her one. I'm left with only one. You want me to give it to you? He asked me. And that question made me feel so ashamed of myself. I can't tell you. I said, no, Swami, I'm so sorry, Swami. I shouldn't have said this. I shouldn't have said it. And I suddenly realized that, when we get from God also, we can be pretty selfish sometimes, because in our mind, we are the center of our universe. So we think everything is owed to us. And maximum from God, we demand that from us. And he suddenly put the spotlight on my emotion, and he showed me that day on how I was thinking so narrowly, and that was the day I told him, Swami, in my life now, I will never ask you again like this. I will not. Whatever you give me, I will take it with grace and with gratefulness. That was a promise I made to him that day. A promise which he reiterated again in another interview for me. So this is one way in our mind works, very subtly we are so selfish in our center of our own universes. This is another story, and that's me next to him with folded hands with a little distance from him. And this was a play which we had done in Anantapur. This shot is in Anantapur actually, when Swami came, and it was a Lebanese play called Mirdad. And Mirdad was a Lebanese saint, and I was one of the chief disciples in that thing. My name was Mikeon, and I was supposed to be a very emotional devotee in that drama. And Swami came for this drama and he enjoyed it so much. Then he asked us to come to the men's campus. There was a VC's conference and we redid this drama in the forbidden ground of the men's campus, on that stage, which probably was the one and the only play of the girls which was done on the men's stage. It was done because there was a vice chancellor's conference and he had seen all the plays, and for some reason Swami liked this play very much and he asked us to repeat it. Now, a lot of my memories are associated with this play. The cap we are wearing here, the thing which is on my head, which is barely seen, is actually a abbot's cap, which was made with paper, and Swami made me explain how the cap was made and everything. But the interesting story here was, I was a confused second-year BCom student at that point of time. And I think that's the age when it's the most confusing age, actually, teenage. And we are idealistic and extremely unsure of ourselves. Both of these emotions are there for young people. And at that point of time, I suddenly got it in my head that I am not worthy of God. I don't know how this came. I think it's called an inverted pride, but that's what was there. And I began to think that I'm not worthy of God. So this was when we did this play in Prashant Nilayam, and Swami was very, very happy with the performance. He praised us. And in fact, he called me out on stage and praised me. And then for the acting, and all this was there. But still, I was continuing to think negative thoughts. And after this play, Swami called all of us and said, take namaskar. So every girl went and touched Swami's feet and came back, and I didn't go. Can you imagine my pride? I did not go to take the namaskar. And Swami looked at me and asked, Namaskaram tiskunava? He asked me, and I kind of nodded, which was neither yes nor no, the Indian nod I gave him. And then Swami said, hey, come and take namaskar. So I went up to him. By the time I turned around that whole crowd and reached his feet and touched his feet, I just broke down and I was crying bitterly on his feet. And Swami put his hand out and blessed me on my head. I still remember the touch of his hand on my head. And he said, Chalu, Chalu. And when I looked up, through my teary vision, teary eyes, I could see him. And he looked at me and he said, what do you want? What is it? What is troubling you, And then I told him, Swami, I want purity of heart. I want a heart which is so pure that I don't complicate everything in my life. And Swami looked at me and he said, he blessed me and he said, I'm giving you purity like that. And then he said, remember, the mind is just a bundle of thoughts. He said that ahara and vihara create thoughts, Swami said. Ahara is what food you eat, and vihara refers to. Is there a disturbance from my side, or do I have to do anything?
No, ma'am, it was somebody else. We've muted. Sorry
Okay,
about that.
sorry. So he said ahara is food and vihara is the people or the company you keep. He said both of these create thoughts. And we all know, Swami has told us multiple times, the food we eat creates the subtlest part of our thinking and our brain. And that is why it is so important to say Brahmarpanam before food. It is so important to eat the right kind of food. It's so important to have Padartha Suddhi and Patra Suddhi and all kinds of Shuddhi, so that our thoughts are higher level. Okay. And so he told me, so when thoughts come, you start thinking you're not pure enough, but that's not what you should. Purity is your nature, and only these thoughts come and go. So understand that, he told me. And then he told me, have self-confidence. Have self-confidence. These were the two instructions he gave me at that point of time when I was quite messy, like a young person. And that's the beauty of God, because he can reach right into your soul, right? I mean, life, its circumstance, everything is on the outside. But the one thing which is inside you, the one thing which supports you under all circumstances is God. So between these two pressures, the pressure of an outside life and force, and the pressure inside, from God, which wants you to expand, between these two, your vessel or your clay pot becomes shaped well. And that is the beauty of letting God into your life, the extent he goes to improve, and I won't say improve, let's say the word refine your attitudes, refine your thinking, refine the way you talk, speak, think, everything. And that is the beauty which God brings into your life. And it's very difficult to describe. I don't know how many lifetimes we owe him, for this refinement. So the other thing which I found when I was reading his discourses is he talks about how to overcome all this. How do you overcome Swartha? How do you overcome Swaprayojanam? How do you overcome Swabhimanam? And Swami prescribes 3 pills for it. First, he says, Viveka, continuously discriminate. Is this long term? Is this going to last at all? Is it worth giving so much of my attention, time, energy to it? Think of that. And then he says, he uses the word of Vijnana. And Vijnana, of course, Swami has discussed under multiple occasions in his discourse. But the one thing which he spoke, which I am picking up for this, is when he talks about Chitta Shuddhi. He says, cleanse your mind, cleanse your heart. When you do that, then your sense control comes automatically. And then you overcome this fear of survival. When you overcome fear of survival, you stop playing games. You stop doing, all these maneuvers to defend yourself, because that's where you need Vijnana, Chitta Suddhi you need. And then Swami talks about Vairagya, a certain amount of detachment we need to develop. And only then we can see the big picture. We can see how he is a part of everything, how everything is a part of him. Of course, when you say it in so many words, it looks very easy, but I'm sure the whole learning takes lifetimes. But if we can make a beginning, even if we make 1 or 2 steps in this direction in this lifetime, I think it's some kind of an achievement. Because this is basically meaning you transcend your body consciousness, you transcend your mental image of yourself, you transcend your emotions, and then you come to the Atma Bhava or whatever he talks about. But with God, it's the easiest. I mean, if you hold his hand, he's going to, literally drag you through entire part of this. So, and Swami says in his discourses that all you have to do is do Daiva Chintana. Just think of me. Even if it's a few seconds in a day, bring me into your consciousness. And then it's like bringing light into the darkness, straight. and then the metamorphosis or the thing starts automatically. So before I stop actually this talk, I want to just tell one more incident. This is one of my paintings which I made, which symbolizes that, from our innocent birth to our carefree childhood, to our confused youth and our careworn middle age and our tottering old age, consciously or unconsciously, all of us are going towards him. All of us, whether we know it, we acknowledge it, we feel it, whatever we are, the arms of humanity constantly seek his feet. They constantly go towards him. And that is the greatest blessing of life, that we may be aware or we may not be aware, but life itself is going towards him. So I just want to say one more experience to end this whole probably little sordid stories in a little happy one. For me, it used to be an obsession as a teenager that the avatar has come. What if we are not ready for him? What if our mind and heart is not ready? Then we will miss the essence, We will be like those gopikas who refuse to look at Krishna, and because they heard that he's very bewitching, so they refused to look at him, They were trying to protect themselves and they missed the biggest thing in their life. We always have this syndrome, we'll miss the bus kind of a thing. So I used to also suffer from this fear. And once I asked Swami directly, Swami, will our consciousness rise? Will all of us come to you? Because no point in one person going, whole humanity should go to him. Then only the way we live is going to change, right? So I asked him and I wrote it in a paper and I gave it to Swami. I asked the explicit question was, Swami, will our consciousness rise? Will we ever appreciate what you are? Will we live life like the way you want us to live? So these things I had written down and I gave it to Swami. And Swami took that letter from me and he stood in front of me and he read it. I could see his eyes moving on those lines. And then he looked at me and he said, Sambhavatu Shigram. In Sanskrit, he gave it like a blessing, which means Sambhavatu means it will happen. Shigram means very soon. This was one point in time when he said, because see, look at it like this. If the avatar comes down on earth, it's like the whole force of the universe, which created the universe comes into our small domain. It's like the light of 1,000 suns. It will burn darkness away. I mean, there's no other way, right? If you look at it logically, that's how it should be. And he was saying, yeah, it's going to happen very soon. That's it. The other time when I asked him the same question, he was giving us pile, what we wear on our feet, anklets. And he gave me my box of anklets and I said, Swami, this should tie us to your path. I mean, please make sure that we never stray away from your path. And he said, Aim pathu? What path? I said, Sai's path, Swami. Whatever you're saying, your words, we should walk it. We hear it, but will we walk it, And he looked at me and he said, Ada, oh, that one. Andaru nadustaru. He said, every one of you will walk it. The whole of humanity will walk this path. So these are the two times when he categorically said that the human consciousness will rise. And I thought that this would be the best note to end this on. So thank you very much for your patient listening. If there are any questions, I am open to it.
Thank you so much, ma'am, to help us delve into profound teachings which are inspired by your personal interactions with Swami. And as we reflect on these teachings, we find ourselves humbled and filled with gratitude for the wisdom that you have shared. So through your interactions, you shared how to illuminate with wisdom. When faced with darkness in our lives, we are reminded that the remedy lies in bringing forth the light of wisdom. And also how to transcend with ego. Understanding the intricacies of the ego is crucial. and it is important to identify our ego lies solely with our Atma, the eternal self, and it's futile to associate it and entangle with selfish desires, with Swartha, with Swarup, or with Swabhiman. And I believe our participants must be having a lot of questions around these, to which they'll be seeking answers. And with your permission, I would open the floor to the Q&A session. There are a few quick tips before we proceed to the Q&A. I request all the participants who have any questions to please use the raise hand option on your Zoom screen to raise your hands, and I'll call out your name in that specific order. And also you may use the chat to post your questions, to which I'll alternatively switch between the raised hands and the questions posted in the chat. First, we have a sister from West Bengal 1. Sister, you may please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you, brother. And Sairam, ma'am, you read my mind, and I'm sure a lot of other minds in terms of everything that you said. These were things that I had question about. I wanted to start from the end, which is you said, Baba said again and again that humanity will rise. Everywhere that we see today in this Kali Yuga, it's so difficult, and sometimes it fills my mind with a lot of doubt. How do you remind yourself again and again in that situation of what Baba said? How to constantly remind ourselves of that daily situations?
Okay, I totally empathize with what you're asking, because I also feel that many a times, if you look at practical evidence, it doesn't look like we are going anywhere higher. But if you look at avatars in the past, okay, that is, look at Krishna's life and is born in a jail, okay. You look at Rama, he spent 14 years in the forest. But we talk of Ramaraja, we talk about the enormous battle of good and evil, which happened in the Mahabharata. It looks like this kind of a trajectory happens in they say it's darkest before dawn, So I think if you look at it from the Yuga's perspective or anything, it's inevitable. The progress is inevitable. However, the good over evil, which happens, even if you take something simple like Harry Potter, okay, it looks like we are failing and then it changes. So I think in a mass level, that's how it's going to happen. What do we do in that? Till meantime, it may happen now, it may happen in 100 years. That's not the issue. The issue is, Swami says you cannot change creation, but you can change your vision. That's it. So the only thing we could probably do is to make ourselves more positive and spread positivity around us, that small circle. In general, be the little flickering light to the extent possible. We'll make mistakes, we fall down, we get up. But that's the joy of life. It's okay. So I think each one of us has our own way of connecting to God. I mean, it's not a universal way. And so whichever way makes you happy, that's good enough. Luckily, God has got no tight brackets, but he has shown certain ways. Like, for example, spend some time in service, spend some time in contemplation. Let your heart flow towards him sometimes. And these are the things we can do to refine ourselves, I think. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you for that one.
Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, ma'am. We have one question in the chat. स्वामी ने कहा कि मानवता आपके पथ पर चलेगी, पर हम निरंतर कैसे ये मान सकते हैं कि कलयुग में यह संभव हो सकेगा?
भगवान की जो लीला है और जो भगवान जिस तरफ कुछ करते हैं वो हमें समझ नहीं आता है, लेकिन जब स्वामी ऐसे बोलते हैं कि ये होने ही वाला है, अच्छे दिन आएंगे, भगवान की कॉन्शियसनेस बढ़ जाएगी सब जगह, जब ऐसे बोलते हैं ना, तो हमें अपना मन को उस पर टिका कर रखना पड़ता है. टिका के रखने से हमें शक्ति मिलती है. जो होना है तो वो हो ही जाएगा. भगवान अगर उतर कर आए हैं हमारे बीच में, अच्छापन तो आना ही है, और कोई रास्ता ही नहीं है. लेकिन तब तक हमें टिकना है, तब तक हमें भी उस पथ पे चलना है. उसके लिए हमें उनके ही शब्द पे, अभी महाभारत में बोलते हैं, युधिष्ठिर को कृष्ण ने एक छोटा सा लेटर दिया था, उसमें लिखा था दिस टू शैल पास, ये भी गुजर जाएगा. और कहा कि जब बहुत कष्ट आ जाएंगे तब ये खोल के देखना। और तभी युधिष्ठिर ने खोल के देखा तो उनको धीरज आ गया। तो स्वामी के शब्द जो है हमें धीरज देते हैं, हमें शक्ति देते हैं, लेकिन चलना तो हमें सभी है। तो इसीलिए हम जब अब ऐसे सत्संग करते हैं तो हमें शक्ति मिलती है, चलने की शक्ति मिलती है, मानने की शक्ति मिलती है। और जब हमारे से कुछ बुरा भी हो जाए तो हमें शक्ति मिलती है कि हम उसके उसके प्रति अच्छा ही करें। ये आसान नहीं है ना, आसान बिल्कुल नहीं है। लेकिन अगर बहुत सारे लोग ये करेंगे तो तभी तो दुनिया बदलेगी। तो इसीलिए ये हमारा काम है। और आप लोग सबको ये क्षमता भी है और ये शक्ति भी है। और भगवान, ग्रेस, लव सभी है, तो ये हो सकता है।
Thank you, ma'am. May I request Sister F03 from Maharashtra West? You may please unmute yourself.
Sairam ma'am, it was really wonderful listening you. So my question is, in the youthful, as you told that teenage is very confusing age, and the same with youth, it is very competitive. So we are constantly struggling with, on the one way, we don't know how to pacify ourselves, to look within and to look towards God, like how to reach God. And on the other side, there are so much competition, and we have to engage in so many worldly things. So everyone says we have to maintain the balance, but what should be the proper way to maintain that balance in the youth?
That's a perfect question, a question which I hear all the time because I teach young people. So my classrooms are full of young girls, and we have one session which we call as a open session, where people can ask any question with no bars. So they ask me this question, so I'm going to tell you the same answer I give them. Okay. Young people, everybody says youth is heaven, but I'm not very sure it is heaven. Because it is an age of unsureness, inside your heart, and then you are trying to make your way. And now Generation Z and millennial generation, post-millennial generation and alpha generation all talk about very heavily about mental illness, mental this, that, and all. So it's a scary age. But the thing is, what is important in life is resilience. Resilience means even if we fall down, the ability to get up and walk again. That is resilience. We will make mistakes. Of course, we will make mistakes. We will trust wrong people. We may get cheated. We will sometimes do something with good beliefs, but we don't do it rightly. So we will learn, by trial and error, by falling and getting up. We do that. But when you focus on the larger goal, like you keep your eyesight on God, or you keep eyesight on joy, or you keep your mind on happiness or bliss or love or something which is bigger than you, it gives you the strength. It's like a handle in the sky. You can hold it and get up each time. So finally, it doesn't matter whether you did everything right, as much as it matters whether you learned from your mistakes, whether you got up every time, whether you walk towards it, and that determines your character. Okay. So sometimes, we think this is Kali Yuga and it's extremely bad. And once when Swami was asked about it, Swami said this example, and I'm just sharing it with you. Swami said, you know what? You see the darshan ground? Can you hear that baby crying? So there was one big bawling of a baby, and everybody is making faces because the sound is there. And then Swami said, because thousands of people are keeping quiet, you're able to hear the sound of the baby. Similarly, if you see the proportion of good and bad in the universe, actually, what happens in media, in our mind, everywhere, we blow out of proportion the bad. But the truth is, the earth survives or life goes on because the good is greater than the bad at all times. Now we think Ramarajya was so perfect, right? I remember one interview, my father asked Swami, Ramarajya kab aayega? When will we have Ramarajya in our world? And Swami said, Ramarajya mein dhobi nahi tha. Dhobi tha na. He is the one who suspected Mother Sita. So good and bad is always there in life. Okay, it's never going to be, because there are two sides of a coin. But God is like a third point of view. It's not good, it's not bad, it's above good and bad. So when you link yourself to the higher power, good and bad, both don't affect you in the long run. Okay. So our purpose is, you don't have to ये उलझाना, इसको सुलझने की जरूरत नहीं है. बस अपना दिल स्वामी में लग दो. अपने आप ये सारे उलझन सुलझ जाएंगे. बस रास्ता खुलेगा. शक्ति मिलेगी. So that is how you walk in life. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I got it. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, ma'am. One question from the chat. Sairam, ma'am, how a person can derive his or her goal? How can they define themselves within this ocean of doubt and self-questioning while being on Swami's path?
You're talking about self-definition. No? Can you read that question again for me once? Sorry.
How can a person derive his or her goal? How can they define themselves within this ocean of doubt and self-questioning?
Yeah. Actually, very many times, young people don't even know their goal, At the best, we don't know what we want. We just know some vague thing. I want to be happy like this, but you don't know what makes you happy. You don't know how to reach that happiness. We don't know many things, okay? So we look for something, definitions where we fix it. Okay, if I do a career, I'll feel happy. Okay, if I get that position, I'll be happy. Okay, if I clear this exam, I'll be happy. Or, okay, if Swami looks at me, I'll be happy. We make these definitions as we go along. And every definition, once we get it, it may satisfy us a little, and then we feel it's not really there. So if you look at it, our goals change as we change. So the point in question is not your goal, which is still external to you. It's you. The goal is only useful to you. Your whole thing is when it defines you, because you learn more about yourself. So the whole way forward when you're walking towards a thing, it's better to keep that undefined. Say, Swami, this is what I think of you right now. So I follow it. If that definition is not sufficient, Swami will break that definition and make a bigger definition for you. You notice one thing. One day you decide, bhai, I'm going to do maunam, okay? I want to become good. I want to keep maunam, or I won't get angry today. You make a decision like that. That day, everything will go wrong. Everyone will irritate you. You will lose your temper. Have you noticed that ever in your life?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, this happens
Yes.
because whenever you think like that, some thought, you're telling the universe, test me. Because you are soul. You have power. So when you say, I want to follow a path, immediately God or nature will put that obstacle in front of you so that you'll improve, so that you'll see or test yourself. So Swami used to always say, test is my taste. In exams, we first learn, then we write exam, we get marks. But in life, it is not like that. First exam, you may fail or pass, and then you learn. You do and then learn. Not learn and then do. That's not happening. So be open to life. Trust God. He is going to hold your hand. He will take you forward. And it's okay if you fall. Get up again. That's it. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, don't be so fixed on goals. Today you understand a truth. Follow it. The truth will refine itself. If that truth is a limited truth, it will open up and show you a higher truth. So it's okay. Enjoy the journey as you go. Does that solve your question, please? Whoever asked that.
Thank you, ma'am. May I request Sister F09 from Karnataka South? May I please proceed with the question?
Sairam, ma'am. It is a wonderful session. Not just, first I would like to pour my heart out on the session, which I could connect moment, not just the whole 45 minutes or something. So thank you I feel fortunate to be in this session. Thank you, ma'am. So when you said you had one experience with Swami during your play, and you were so I could connect with that. And Swami said couple of things that you should carry for the whole of your life. One is purity, and then the other one is self-confidence. So, yes. So, how did you do that? As in, how did you start developing self-confidence, and how did you start believing that you're the purest form, right? So, during this process, even as we tell ourselves, even as we see Swami in front of us and keep moving further and convincing the monkey mind that you are pure, you are self-confident, but there are so many obstacles that come in between and so many disturbances, as you said just in the previous question when you were answering. When you say that you are something, you are good, nature comes against it and then sort of throws some exams at you. So how do you hold on to it? How do you move further? How do you stand those strides and then go forward and feel that real presence, even though Swami is subtle now, right? I always wonder how people who have been associated with Swami in his physical presence are still seeing him, right, in his subtle form. So how do you get to that state? It was a lengthy question. Apologies about that, but
No,
yeah. Thank you so
actually
much.
speaking, this self-confidence is an issue which many people struggle with. Okay. I think it's natural in your young age when you are still figuring out yourself and you're figuring out the world and you have idealism, but practicality is different from idealism. And all these conflicts and clashes will shake confidence. But it's something like this. Whatever we are seeing and what happening to us is still changing. There's only one thing which is unchanging in our life, and that is Swami. And Swami's love, for us is like a non-sticky but close love. I don't know how to call it. It is, it's like a principle. It's not an emotion. It's as solid as the earth under it, no? So it is there. But it is not convenient and sweet and beautiful. And when I'm crying, it's not a pillow. And, it's not that kind of love always. But it's a tough love which says, you're strong, be okay. You will find when you start looking for it, that God intervenes in your life in multiple ways. We don't thank him, we don't thank him. See, today I'm standing on the road. I could be hit by anything. I'm not. Okay. I get up in the morning, I can breathe. I haven't thanked him for that. I get food every day in front of me. I haven't thanked him for that. The point is, we take all of the gifts of God for granted. Suddenly, when you become conscious of that gift, you feel gratitude. When you feel gratitude, Swami always is saying, I don't want any other gift. Give me gratitude. Because when you feel gratitude, you're looking at positivity in your life. That's all. And that is how confidence grows. And I'm telling you, we will have up and down. Doesn't matter. That's part of life. But the issue is that the down should not destroy you. The down should allow you to overcome it and again climb up. And that comes when you keep your eyes on positivity. And Swami used to say multiple ways to develop the positivity. Like one thing is to tell us is that read. And, read things which are noble. Don't read gross things because they will destroy you. Then Swami would say, keep good satsang. When some time in your life spend with God. Then he would say, serve, so that you don't make your pain bigger than the pain of the universe. Look at other people's pain. And your pain looks small in comparison. Do that, he used to say. So he prescribes a lot of ways in which we can refine our way of thinking and keep our hearts above. Okay. And I do a simple thing. Every day I pick up one book of Swami at random, pray and open. Okay. And you will find he will say something which is correct for that minute for you at that point of time. In our hostel, everywhere, we keep a small chit box. Okay. It's got chits and it's got messages. Any girl who has a problem at any time can go pick up a chit. And I will tell you, 99% of the girls will tell you they got the right answer each time. Because God is in the very atmosphere of everything. He is there everywhere. It's just that, Swami used to give another example. Swami used to say, if you ask where is butter and buttermilk, you can't find it. It's only when you churn it that the butter rises in the buttermilk. Similarly, God is everywhere. But until you do this struggle, until you churn your heart, your mind, the butter will not rise it as a visible entity. So that's what Swami says. The thing we need to remember is that he is there and he's bigger than everything else in the universe. So it is impossible to miss him. Okay. Then it gives you strength to walk. Of course, I mean, those of us who saw his form, I think you people are very blessed in one way because directly you are linked to his word. All right. If you have not made that spiritual journey in the past, you cannot be linked to his word. And his word is greater than his form. So never think that, I didn't see the form. I haven't had this interaction with the form. Issue is not having seen the form. The more important issue is whether you were able to make the best of what you got. You see? Like Swami used to say, when a lotus blooms, the bee comes from far away and takes the honey and goes, while the frog will be sitting under that lotus and not get the benefit of the lotus. So the issue is not whether God is in your life. The more important issue is, am I ready for God? Am I open enough to get what he's giving? So that kind of a thought you think of, and I'm sure that, I get so many children in my class who have never seen him. But I find generation after generation which enters my class has a higher consciousness. They are more interested. They ask the deeper questions. They're willing to face the battle. So sometimes I wonder, these souls have come now because they are more advanced. Simple. Right? So form is a small part of the whole journey. God is much greater than the form. That we have to remember at all times. I don't know. I hope my answers are a bit random, but I hope I answered your question.
No, yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Due to paucity of time, this was the last question that we took in this live satsang. And all the questions that we couldn't answer in this live satsang, and all other questions, if you have after this satsang, please share those with your mitras. We'll request ma'am to help answer them offline. Now, moving ahead with the next segment of the program, may I please request our convener, Dr. Gopi Krishna Pidatala sir, to please share a few words.
Sairam, is Professor Verma there on the call?
No, sir, I don't think he's on the call right now.
Okay, he was supposed to give the word of thanks, Anyway, thank you so much, Dr. Suma. It was a very interesting, deep dive thought process for most of them. In fact, the last 10-15 minutes when I got back into the call, I think I connected to a lot of thoughts that you actually shared, that God is all pervading. It's only that you have to tune yourself to connect to him. And you're very right. This generation is much more blessed because they have a direct connect with him, and not seeing Swami sometimes is a boon, because some of us who've been very physically attached to the form sometimes, still sulk for he leaving us at the right time when we wanted him. So thank you. And I don't want to say much more because, lot of important aspects have gone to these children today. And I would want to leave them in silence so that they churn these thoughts and get closer to Swami. Swami is always our best friend in life, and he always will remain. Trust in him, and he will lead you to where you need to go. That's it from me. Thank you, Shivans, and thank you, team, for this wonderful session. Jai Sairam.
Thank you, Uncle. It is my duty to thank all the forces that made this satsang possible. And at the outset, I would like to express my immense gratitude to our Divine Master, Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, for allowing us to come together and learn under his watchful guidance. Thank you, Swami. I express my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Suma for an enlightening session. In reflection of your journey, ma'am, I'm reminded of a Chin Katha that Swami said from the time of Lord Krishna, where he mentions about an artist who struggled to capture the divine likeness of the Lord himself. So, despite numerous attempts he couldn't match the true essence of Krishna in his paintings. And it was until sage Narada who advised him to use a mirror, emphasizing that clarity of mind filled with love and devotion is key to portraying the divine. And much like the artist in this tale, in this Chinnakatha, ma'am, you embodied an unwavering pursuit of excellence and a profound understanding that true vision stems from a heart brimming with love and devotion. We thank you for sharing your experiences and ability to mirror the divine through your work and life. I would also like to sincerely thank the academic board and the conveners of Sri Sathya Sai National Leadership Program for Self-Transformation for their unwavering support and guidance. And lastly, I extend my appreciation to all the participants in attendance for your interest, participation, and engagement. With this, I once again thank Swami and bring this session to a close with Shanti Mantra. Jai Sai.